URC round number 2 is done and dusted. We've had another 8 games on. It's been a pretty interesting round. Another round where the home teams did particularly well. It's only the 2 away wins to 2 of the kind of big gun Irish teams over teams who were kind of predicted to finish bottom of the log. So it's it's more of the home team stuff. 2 away wins similar to last week. None of the South African teams managed to pick up a win, but again, none of those teams are at home yet. So, we'll go through the games. I've seen 3 of them in full, and all the rest I have seen highlights. We'll go through them quickly, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on how things went. We'll start with the first one, as I write down the time, which is the Scarlets and Lions. First time for me to see the Scarlets and Lions in full this season. It was a bit of a weird one in terms of the Lions look good up front, but their backs didn't get bugger all ball, whereas the Scarlets have some electric backs and they absolutely let them loose. I mean, bloody hell, those guys, was it Tom Rogers? 2 tries. I mean, he was just cutting guys to bits. I was particularly impressed by Rob Evans. He seemed to be everywhere for a big forward. He scored a try as well. Like I just mentioned, he was just everywhere. Very busy. Good work rate from him. Callum Afoni ended up getting man of the match. He was kind of everywhere as well. Some of the scrums were a bit messy, but the Lions scrum actually looked pretty good. Their forwards looked pretty good. They were just a bit greedy. The backs were starved of the ball. Hendricks, the fly half, looked pretty sharp though in a losing effort. It was like, by the time it was like 20 points to 6, which was, I don't know, still fairly early on. It was, it was pretty comfortable for the Scarlets guys. Bonus point win. I mean, there's not much more than you can ask to kind of please the fans at home. I wasn't too sure about the Lions' alternative jersey, which is white on the front and red on the back when you're playing a team which is red in the Scarlets. So from some angles, there was no jersey clash at all, and then other angles, like when they would pack down a scrum, it was just red on red, albeit with blue numbers on the Lions jersey to kind of differentiate. But not the ideal kind of design. The Lions guys in Super Rugby have done that before, I believe. But good game. Like I said, some proper electric tries. Steph Evans won at the end was a real worldie, so definitely worth checking out the highlights if you haven't. I mean, clean break 6-1. Kind of tells the story. McNichol and Rogers, both 60 plus run meters, both beat 4 defenders. Dan Davis makes 21 out of 22 tackles, which is a pretty supreme effort. In comparison, the Lions wingers, Ulengo doesn't get a run. The guy who scored the first try of the URC season last week didn't get a run. Makwane had 2 runs for 3 meters, just starved of the ball. Ruben Skorman, your try scorer for the Lions, has 12 from 12 tackles. Hendrickson has 57 run meters and 6 defenders beaten, so he was sharp. But not a heck of a lot of ball. I mean, Makwane even getting a yellow card towards the end of the game wasn't ideal either. But Evans 2 to Rogers and 1 to Evans, so 4 tries for Scarlets. They are now 1-1. They are 8th. They're home to Munster next week, which will be a pretty tough one. The Lions are 1-1 as well. They are away to Glasgow, and based on what the Sharks experienced, that's not going to be an easy game by any means. The next one I also saw in full, which is Connacht against the Bulls. A big win for Connacht, really. I mean, the Bulls are the team that got talked up the most of the South African teams. They are now none from 2. They've not really found their feet as yet. I'm still not too concerned just because these guys are away from home. They've just finished the Currie Cup season, so they haven't really had a kind of proper off-season. I'm not sure if that's just all excuses, but I still reckon they'll come right. They'll adapt to the refereeing, they'll get into the competition, they'll get home, and they'll kind of get stable. But admittedly, it's a pretty bad result for them. Whereas Connacht, I mean, Galway is always, by all accounts, a pretty tough place to go. And so the Bulls found it. They did start with a flying start. I mean, Gqoboka got the first try in like 2 minutes. But it didn't take too long for the Connacht guys to hit back. And to be fair, the Connacht defence was just so good at nullifying the Bulls. Like when they were in their own 22, they would inevitably end up with a turnover, or the Bulls would concede a penalty. So credit to them for that. They nullified the Bulls' pressure really well. Connacht even had a couple of disallowed tries. Their forwards, kind of unlike the Lions forwards, the Connacht forwards would do the hard yards and then just kind of unleash the backs, right? It was kind of real traditional, cliche, forwards win you the game and then the backs decide by how much. Basically, that was essentially what it was. Mac Hansen got a bit of a wonder try. They had to check it to make sure there was no obstruction to stop the try being scored, like legally, but I mean, that dude was electric. I talked him up prior to the season, so it's great to see him pull off such a try after only 2 weeks into the competition. He ends up with like 10 defenders beaten, which is phenomenal. 100 plus run meters. Mac Hansen is a proper electric winger. So yeah, bonus point win. They secured that one from a scrum set play. It was tries to O'Halloran, 2 to Daly, Hansen, and then 1 to Farrell. So the try in Kaboko is the only one in return from the Bulls. So yeah, man, tackling percentage, Connacht 90%, make 164 tackles. The Bulls are at 86, which is not bad. But the territory in the second half was like 89 to 11. The Bulls just didn't get out of their half. Just didn't look threatening whatsoever. They had 10 knock-ons to the Connacht 5. Marcel Coetzee makes 18 tackles on a losing effort. Arno Botha is their top carrier from the starting 15. When it's one of your loosies, that's generally not a great sign, with 43 run meters and 5 defenders beaten. But yeah, Prendergast and Butler both have 17 tackles, so good bounce back for Connacht after losing in the opening round. They're also 1 from 1. I think they're 10th. They are home to the Dragons next week, so they'll be pretty confident going into that one. The Bulls, like I mentioned, are 9 from 2. They are dead last. And they are away to Cardiff. So their home games are still looking a wee way off, as all the South African teams have to start the competition on the road, essentially. The next one, which is probably the most entertaining game in terms of a game going down to the wire, Benetton and Edinburgh. Goodness gracious, I didn't see this one. Now, it's one thing that's kind of unfortunate is that Wales have got some games free to air on BBC. Ireland's got them on RTE and TG4. But Scotland and Italy, not so much. So it's a bit trickier to see their games at the moment. I haven't seen this one in full, but I wish I had. Man, what a dramatic finish to this one. Literally, like 84th minute, last kick of the game. It's a drop goal that wins it. But, I mean, some standouts from these teams. Is it Lucchesi or Lucchesi? The hooker, he loves a try, doesn't he? He gives McAnally a big don't argue to get the opening try in like 5 minutes. He gets one later on 71 when they're chasing the game. While they've got a man down as well, so he gets a double. Ioane gets one as well. He's another guy I kind of talked up in the preseason, so good to see him kind of paying some dividends for the Benetton faithful there. Edinburgh actually outscored them in terms of tries, so it is a 2-point loss for them. They get a 4-try bonus point, and they got within 7. Nell got 1, Velicott got 2, and McAnally got 1. Velicott loves a snipe, doesn't he? He got 2 tries within like 5 minutes. So both Lucchesi and Velicott, very entertaining guys to watch. Van der Vault kicked a real clutch penalty to probably win it on 75 or 76 minutes. It was not an easy kick, but he kicked it. But the 84th minute drop goal from Leonardo Marin, I don't know him, but man, he kicked well, didn't he? Because he kicked at least a key conversion from the Lucchesi second try. He kicked the penalty, I think, and he kicked this drop goal. It's like 40 meters out. He's not really closed down a lot, which is maybe the one thing I would say. They didn't really put him under a heap of pressure. No one got very near him. He was pretty deep in the pocket, but still. Yeah, what a drop goal to win it at the death. Phenomenal stuff. That game just is pure entertainment, that one. Benetton against Edinburgh. And it adds to the fact that, they've got the shields, like as each team's kind of in their own little conference. Not for the overall log, but for their European qualification and whatnot. So that's an important win for Benetton, man. Position and territory, Benetton edged at 55-45, but run meters, it was Edinburgh 350 odd to like 288 for Benetton. Lamaro has 15 out of 15 tackles, which is a good shift. Darcy Graham has 90 run meters and 4 defenders beaten, but does not really appear in the highlights, which I saw. So that's a bit disappointing. But man, a very dramatic one, that one. Really wish I'd seen it. Benetton are now 2-2, which is a great start to their season. They are away to Ulster, so it will get tricky. They're in 5th. Edinburgh are at home to the Stormers. They are 1-1. They are in 7th. So They'll be pretty gutted not to pick up a win here, but back home in front of the faithful, they will be looking to bounce back absolutely. The next one is also a pretty entertaining one, Glasgow and the Sharks. The Sharks, I mean, they scored more points than any of the South African teams this week, getting over the try line 3 times, but they don't really get much more from it because they didn't finish within 7. They didn't get the 4 tries to get the bonus point. But it's seemingly a bit better effort, especially given that they've got probably the biggest contingent of Springboks to come back into the side once they are done with the... well, basically next year anyway. So, yeah, it was a bit different to see Glasgow in an away jersey at home. I'm not sure if that's a normal thing or not, or if it's just because they kind of clashed and the Sharks didn't bring their away kit. Not sure, but it was unusual. If anyone can shed any light on that one, it'll be interesting. But, man, I mean, Glasgow, a cracking start, and they look to be a really fun team to watch as well. Like, I wrote a note before I'd seen the stats that, like, these guys, they just love an offload. They love a dinky little kick, don't they? And then I looked at the offload stats, and it was 17-3. 17 offloads in one game is bonkers. That is like Dave Rennie Chiefs era level of offloads. Like, that's a crazy, crazy number of offloads. But cracking start, man. 21 unanswered points for Glasgow. Sharks had a yellow card with penalties conceded. I mean, yeah, that guy Forbes was electric. They had tries to Thompson, Wilson, Batty, and 2 to Forbes. But interestingly, the last try was in the 43rd minute. So, I mean, got to give credit to the Sharks because it was like 35-10. And they did come back and score a couple of tries to at least make it look a little bit more respectable. Glasgow getting yellow carded as well because they were under a bit of pressure from the Sharks. So, yeah, 35-24 is a pretty big statement win from Glasgow as well. Bonus point win for them. I mean, interestingly, I mentioned the offloads was 17-3, but the knock-ons was 10-6 with the Sharks having more. You'd think a team which is chucking the ball around that much would be having handling errors, but seemingly not so much. Clean breaks 6-0. Yeah, the most run meters from any Sharks player was 29, which is a bit concerning. Thomas du Toit had 18 from 19 tackles, and he got a try alongside Leroux Rots and Nchunu. So 3 tries for them. Jack Dempsey appears to have had a pretty good game from what the stats tell me anyway. 96 run meters for a Lucy. 6 defenders beaten. Glasgow's tackle rate was 95%, 99 from 104 tackles. They missed 5 tackles the whole game. That's quite a shift. So, yeah, there you go. The Sharks none from 2. They're in 15th. They're away to the Ospreys next week. Glasgow at home to the Lions. They are 1 and 1 in 6th. So, yeah, they'll be looking to go and go 2 on the bounce. 2 home games in a row will be pretty welcome news for the fans, I would imagine. The next one, Ulster and Zebra. Zebra at home for this one. Didn't see it live. Didn't see it in full. Only saw the highlights. Ulster in their away kit is yellow this year. I hadn't actually seen that. That's a bit of a eye opener to see these guys running around in a yellow. But I guess there's no natural clash with anyone, which is nice to see. I'd rather than be in a big yellow jersey which doesn't clash with anybody than potentially that half and half colour from the Lions. But anyway, took 20 minutes for the scoring to be opened, but once it opened, it seems like Ulster just kind of ran riot. Yeah, they took advantage of the space. It was almost like, if you ever played Rugby 08, on easy, you just get it out to your wingers, and that seemed to be the deal with Ulster for a while. Like, they would essentially just get the Zebra defending winger to bite in and create a 2-on-1. It seemed to happen multiple times. Just needed to stay on his man, but not quite able to do it. So, yeah, they would get that space, get it out. Just kind of simple as that, really. McElroy gets 2. Addison gets 1. He seemed to be everywhere. Hume got 1. And Timoney got 2, including 1 right at the death. They didn't really want to take their foot off the throat, did they? So Zebra at one point had 2 yellow cards. They conceded a couple of tries during the yellow card period. A proper blowout in the MR, 36 points to 3. I mean, possession and territory is like 63-37 for the away side, which is a pretty dominant performance, especially in the second half. The numbers were more weighted in the second half. Penalties conceded a 16-7, so Zebra on the wrong side of the ref's whistle. 30 defenders beaten to 8 is a huge number. Addison had 6, Hume had 7, so they were just having a ball, seemingly. I mean, the only thing is it took 20 minutes to open them, but once they did, they just, yeah, like I said, kind of ran riot. So no big comeback from Zebra this week, unlike last week, where they kind of, opposite from Zebra last week, where they shipped a bunch of points early and then came back into the game. So it's a bit of a disappointing one for them. But was it Lucy Leavasa had 17 from 17 tackles. So at least that's kind of one bright side. But man, Ulster, big away win. Just what the doctor ordered. They are in second. They're 2 from 2. They're home to Benetton next week. So 2 of the unbeaten teams will go head to head in Ulster next week, in Belfast, I guess. And Zebra, none from 2. They're in 14th. They're away to Leinster. So it doesn't get any easier for them. The next one I did watch in full, Munster against the Stormers. Someone uploaded this one to YouTube, which was pretty nice of them. It hasn't been taken down as I record this, but I'm sure it will get taken down at some point. This one, bit of a game of two halves, although that's pretty cliche. Munster will be pretty disappointed with the way they started, man. The Stormers started electric, didn't they? Warwick Gallant was in great form. I love that guy. He is a really exciting player. He's played for the Springboks before, not for a while. Had a long injury layoff. Seems to have kind of lost his place down the pecking order. If he keeps playing like he did, he may be able to get himself back into it. So, yeah, Munster were in their own half for the first goodness knows how long. It took them a long time to get any territory in this game. They were just kind of camped out. The Stormers came out of the blocks just looking to play. They had tries through, like I mentioned, Gallant and one through Zas. So 2 tries for them early. They went out to a decent lead. Their hands were just fantastic. It was proper entertaining stuff. 15 points to 0. I never knew Warwick Gallant could do goal kicking, which was news to me, but there you go. Like Munster were making unforced errors. Like Carberry had a restart error where he kicked it out on the full. Earls kicked it out on the full. There was one point where they went for like a pick and drive, but they bound the players too early. That new law that you can't do, and I think it was like 3 of them, or two players bound to the ball carrier prior. So yeah, penalised there. Just unforced errors, eh? They missed touch from a penalty, like unusual stuff. But once they got it right, like they got a try right before half time through O'Donoghue, then it kind of the balance started to tip back. Like you look at the scoring. Into the first half, and then second half, 47, 51, 56, like bang, bang, bang. They really just started turning screws. And it's all the forwards. The forwards just really took it up a notch, and the Stormers guys couldn't live with it. Yeah, tries through O'Donoghue got 2, Klein got 1, Scannell got 1, and Achia Snyman got 1 as well, which was dude carrying the ball into one hand. Like, yeah, ridiculous bit of skills from that guy. Great to see him back. In a Munster jersey after, the start of his Munster career. Didn't get off to the most auspicious of starts. But man, 2 Munster tries when the Stormers had a yellow card. So half-time it was 15-7. And then they just kind of powered away with the game. Yeah, really, really too much in the end. Their maul, just their forwards, like I mentioned, Coombs was everywhere. So yeah. Possessions 50-50. Territories 48-52. So pretty tight. Run meters 317 to 478. So the Stormers actually had that. But you look at the Stormers tries conceded, man. It's just all these forwards from Munster. They didn't need to clock up run meters to power over from a couple of meters out, eh? Whereas the Stormers, their tries are from their back. So interesting. Coombs has 51 run meters. Mike Haley had 5 defenders beaten. So the Munster backs weren't invisible. They were still doing some work, but just the try scoring was all through the forwards. And Gallant, man, 111 run meters, 2 clean breaks, 4 defenders beaten. Good shift from him, but yeah, they just couldn't stick it for the 80 once Munster found that extra gear. So certainly no shame in a losing effort away to Munster, man. It's a pretty tough place to go. So Munster are first on the log. They're 2-2. Stormers are at the other end on 13th, and they are none from 2. They're away to Edinburgh next week, whereas Munster have their first away game to Scarlet. So it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. But yeah, other 2 games, there was Ospreys. I watched the highlights of that one only. Gareth Anscombe's boot, eh? No tries, but Gareth Anscombe kicks them to victory. Cardiff, a couple of tries, both their wingers. I'm definitely on, someone called it the Lane train, the Owen Lane train. I'm well aboard that train. That guy is just fun to watch. I mean, whatever price you're paying for admission to watch a game when he's playing, it's well worth it. And I mean, Josh Adams was back as well. A few Lions back, which was really pleasing to see. But yeah, man, Josh Adams' one was a bonkers try. Like the Ospreys guys were 6-0 up after 2 penalties, and then Priestland's lining one up. His kick hits the post, and like the Ospreys guys were just a bit slow to react to the ball, and Josh Adams was running after it as he should be, because he doesn't know what's going to happen, and he just went over. Way too simple. Yeah, the Ospreys guys will be pretty gutted they kind of let that one in. Both sides had yellow cards. Thomas Williams got one. Michael Collins got one, so he didn't get on the scoreboard this week. But yeah, he did get yellow carded. Anscombe's boot, I just punish him, man. 6 penalties. Seemed to be kicking pretty well, didn't they? So it's enough, despite the fact that they didn't score any tries. It's a home victory. Yeah, Reece Davis had 16 from 16 tackles. Jack Morgan had 16 from 16 tackles. So defensively, pretty solid, barring that kind of Adams try, which was admittedly a pretty soft one. Amos had 3 clean breaks. I think Ospreys as a team had 1. So that kind of tells you kind of what impact 3 clean breaks from Amos was. But yeah, tackling Ospreys 155, Cardiff 80. So it's defence that won the day, plus Gareth Anscombe's reliable kicking boot. And it seems like the discipline was pretty bad from Cardiff as well. 16 penalties conceded to 6. 11 knock-ons to Ospreys 6. So just those kind of key areas. Both sides had high tackling rates, to be fair, which is probably to be expected of a game where there's only 2 tries scored. But there's a game where there's even fewer than 2 tries scored, and that is Dragons against Leinster. 7 points to 6. You don't see many games with those kind of low scorelines anymore. But I don't know. Is that a good result for the Dragons? Because I mean, these guys are supposed to be one of the teams that doesn't perform that well traditionally, and Leinster's the all-conquering team away from home, only wins by a point. I think the Dragons coaching staff came out and said, we don't want to be in a place where we're celebrating a losing bonus point against Leinster. We want to be winning these games. And fair call. I mean, you don't want to be celebrating a 1-point loss, really. But yeah, I mean, it's a crazy game from what limited I've seen. But Dragons had 2 yellow cards. Deegan got a try during one of the yellow cards from kind of close range. And then Sam Davis kicks 2 penalties in the second half in pretty quick succession as well. But yeah, the Dragons guys had a chance to chase it at the death. Why they kicked it when there was like 30 seconds to go, I don't know. The rain was starting to fall. They were running it and they kicked it. They did get the ball back seemingly before full time, but ended up knocking it on. Someone needs to give me some context into that game because I don't know what was going on. Dragons' defensive shift seems pretty good, 92%. With their tackling, made like 190 something tackles, like a huge defensive shift seemingly. But yeah, Ringrose is the only guy who got, I think, 1 of 2 clean breaks. Ringrose and Russell got a clean break each. Seems like a day for the defenses, and the weather at the end kind of packing up maybe made it a bit tricky. Neither side's lineout seemed to be operating that good. They were both like in the 70s in terms of the percentage, but yeah, it's a weird result. Very weird result. Dragons are away to Connacht next. They're in 12th, and Leinster are 2 from 2. They are in 3rd, so home to Zebra next week. They'll be looking to score certainly more than 7 points. But yeah, that's the wrap up for this round. Like I mentioned, away results seem to be pretty hard to come by. The only 2 teams that got them were teams that finished well up there. Ulster and Leinster are teams that are well favoured to be in the title contention this year, both winning against teams which were prior to the start of the season expected to be towards the foot of the table in Zebra and Dragons. So I wouldn't be writing off the South African teams yet. Obviously the Bulls have kind of disappointed a bit, but Connacht and Leinster are 2 pretty bloody tough places to start your run. So I'll be reading a bit more into it once we get more into the season. Obviously, it'll be great to see some of the Springboks guys back, although it's been great to see some of the Lions guys back as well, with the likes of Josh Adams and whatnot. Adam Baird's back, and was he back last week? But it's just good to have these guys back and kind of adding value to the competition. But yeah, pretty entertaining week. not as many losing bonus points. We had a few games with some fewer tries, but yeah, overall, pretty entertained. You guys let me know your thoughts. I did watch them on a variety of sources, but yeah, like I said, some people are uploading them to YouTube. But fingers crossed I can see either Glasgow or Edinburgh next week, because I haven't really watched them in full yet. Likewise, Benetton and ZEBvULS, I need to get those guys under my eyeballs. I need to watch them. That doesn't make a lot of sense. We're 25 minutes in. I better go. You guys take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.